Today we're going to talk about CPI and inflation. At this point, I'm assuming you've already read the book and have some understanding of CPI inflation and know the basics. I'm going to go a little beyond the book today and discuss how the government actually calculates CPI, Consumer Price Index. What the government does is they do a big survey every year, and they survey thousands and thousands of consumers, and they create a virtual basket of goods. So they ask you what you spend money on, and then they find the items that most people spend money on, put them in a virtual basket, and then calculate the price of that basket. Once they have that basket, they then recalculate the price of that basket every 3 months, and you get a quarterly inflation rate. So the amount that that basket increases in price, say over the course of a year, would be the yearly inflation rate. So if we have that basket in January 2012, the price is $1,000. We then take the price again in January of 2013, and if the price went up 5%, then we say inflation was 5%. In theory, that sounds great, but the reality is a little different. Because what happens is the government redoes that survey every year. And when they redo the survey, the goods change because people answer the survey differently. So one year we may say as a society that we purchase jeans. But say the price of jeans goes up over the course of the year, so instead of purchasing jeans, the next year we all purchase sweatpants. Well, sweatpants is going to be in the basket the second year, and jeans the first year. So it's not a one-to-one relationship. So that increase in price in jeans is not going to be reflected in the basket because we are purchasing a cheaper substitute for jeans in sweatpants. So what is CPI really calculating? What it's calculating is what we can spend, not the increase in prices. Because if the price of that basket increases 5% in a year, but say we as consumers can't afford that 5% increase, say we can only afford a 2% increase, we're going to change our purchasing habits to reflect the fact we can only afford a 2% increase in prices, a 2% inflation. So naturally, all of those purchases added together would be 2% higher than they were the year before, rather than the 5% if we had kept those same items. So if CPI is not an accurate measure of inflation, what is? It seems logic would dictate that CPI would estimate below the real level of inflation, the real level of the price of products from one year to the next. So what might be a more accurate representation? Well, I'm going to propose that our money supply, the actual number of dollars in existence, might be a better measure. There are currently $10 trillion in existence. So if that $10 trillion were to increase 5%, prices would also increase 5%. Salaries should also increase 5%. Everything should increase 5% since there are 5% more dollars. It may not happen in exactly 1 year. It may happen in 6 months. It may happen in 2 years. Over the course of time, the change in the number of dollars should be the real inflation rate. So I calculated some numbers. From 1959 to 2008, I calculated that there was a 7% increase yearly, annual increase in the number of dollars, in the money supply. Over those same 49 years, 1959 to 2008, CPI was calculated at 4.17%. That's a pretty substantial difference, nearly 3% over 49 years. 3% per year over 49 years. That's a large difference. So I then calculated what the price changes in other items that hold value over that same period of time were to see if those items were closer to the CPI number or closer to the money supply number of 7%. First thing I looked at was GDP, gross domestic product, which you've also already learned about. Over those same 49 years, GDP increased 7.07% per year, nearly identical to the money supply. Then I looked at the stock market. The S&P 500 increased 6.92% over those same 49 years. Once again, almost identical to the money supply. Gold increased 6.78%. Once again, almost 7%, same 49 years. Also looked at oil. Oil increased 7.22% over those same 49 years. So as you can see, 7% seems to be the magic number for inflation. It's the number that of dollars, 7% seems to be the magic number for inflation. That's the amount the money supply increased, the stock market, gold, oil, GDP, all 7%. CPI, because of the reasons we talked about earlier, only increased 4.17% per year. All this to say that while the CPI attempts to measure inflation, to find the true measure of inflation, you need to look to the money supply.